Hubbard here. This is Shaky Town. And if you got to check out when Gene, George, and I did the Saturday Night Live All-Star Draft, then you already know where this episode is headed. We're going to look at the casts of about 30 different sketch comedy shows from over the decades, and we are going to assemble our respective dream teams. And that's 5 starters and 7 on the bench. This time we are adding a coaching staff. We're going to add 3 performers who can't be used as performers. They would only be showrunners and writers. So you're sacrificing their abilities as a performer to have them steer the direction of your theoretical sketch comedy show. But all these folks have to have been performers on a sketch comedy show. We're also going to have an injury reserve list, honorary mentions, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be 5 alternates that if one of your starters or bench get injured, one of these folks could come in. Now, let's go over some rules. Because we already did a Saturday Night Live draft, Saturday Night Live cast members are not eligible for the sketch comedy all-star draft. So that means even though Janine Garofalo was on Ben Stiller's show and Mr. Show with Bob and David, she can't be in this draft because she was on Saturday Night Live. Now, this doesn't count folks who were in bit parts on a couple sketches, who were writers on the staff. As long as they weren't cast members of Saturday Night Live, then they are still eligible, and we call this the Odenkirk exception. It's going to be just from sketch comedy shows, so that means not parody news shows like Not Necessarily the News or Daily Show, not parody talk shows like The Eric Andre Show or Comedy Bang Bang, and it's only grown-up sketch shows, so nothing on Disney or Nickelodeon, no all that, anything like that. And again, these folks have to have been performers in a cast of a sketch comedy show, not a guest. So as much as you love Josh Fadem, who you might have seen on Key and Peele or Whitest Kid You Know or other shows, he's not eligible for this draft. You have to name what show you're drafting them from. So you could get away with drafting David Cross from Ben Stiller's show and use your Mr. Show spot to draft Jill Talley. Let's go over the shows. Some of these are more obscure than others. Almost Live, which was a Seattle-based sketch comedy show whose cast included Joel McHale and Bill Nye, the science guy. Armstrong and Miller, the aforementioned Ben Stiller show that includes the MTV 1990 incarnation as well as the Fox show 1992. Chappelle Show. You might not always think of that as a sketch comedy show, but that counts. Carol Burnett Show, including the 1990s revival, which starred Richard Kind. The Dana Carvey Show, which had Stephen Colbert, who is also on another comedy sketch show we're going to talk about, Exit 57. Fridays, which included future Seinfeld star Michael Richards and Seinfeld Curb Your Enthusiasm creator Larry David. Human Giant. You can't use Rob Riggle or Bill Hader or Andy Samberg from that show, but you could use a Brian Posehn or a Matt Walsh. The Idiot Box, which was Alex Winter's show on MTV. I Think You Should Leave. Everybody on that show pretty much is eligible, except the main guy, Tim Robinson. In Living Color, another cast that is pretty much entirely eligible, except for Damon Wayans, who was on Saturday Night Live. Key and Peele also happen to be Mad TV cast members, and they're on the draft today as well. Kids in the Hall. No Mark McKinney, he was on Saturday Night Live. Kroll Show, starring Nick Kroll. League of Gentlemen, Mitchell and Webb. Here's a tough situation. You can only draft one cast member per show. So it's Mitchell and no Webb, or Webb and no Mitchell. Monty Python. Both Mr. Show and the Netflix revival called With Bob and David. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. SCTV. The Edge. While you may not remember that one season sketch show from Fox, you do know the cast. Not only Tom Kenny and Jill Talley, who are also Mr. Show cast members, but actors Jennifer Aniston and Alan Ruck. The Sketch Show. That's the British version and the American version. So yes, technically Kelsey Grammer is eligible for this draft. The State. Tim and Eric and their various projects, which are sketch comedy shows. The Tracy Ullman Show. And really, we were just looking at her original Fox sketch comedy show, which also happened to birth The Simpsons. Upright Citizens Brigade, and The Whitest Kids You Know. Let's go to the draft. Gene,
Yes.
of all the names you looked at today, what's one you didn't draft that if you just had one more spot somewhere in there, you wish you could squeeze this person in?
I think it's less one more spot and more allowed to pick from the same well again.
Yeah,
It's that's I think the um yeah, it's less the restriction of the number of slots and more the restriction of only being able to draft one person from the uh whatever sketch product.
yeah,
Um because we'll get into it, but like Tim Conway and
yeah.
Harvey Korman, you kind of, I mean, I you can have a Tim Conway without a Harvey Korman, but can you? I would much rather I'd much rather see both of them as a en bloc as opposed to you know uh I think I think I think Tim Conway works fine, but I think Tim Conway with Harvey Korman is sublime, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
For me, there were two that I wanted to squeeze in if they made sense. So Jim Carrey was one, but I just thought he was too overpowering a star. Like he was great on In Living Color and had a lot of great characters, and I have no doubts of his abilities in an ensemble. I have no doubts of his abilities as a sketch character, but it would almost overshadow everybody to a distracting point. I mean, there's some folks I did pick who did achieve that kind of level of mainstream success, but I opted against Carrie. The other one was Alex Winter, who was the creative force behind the Idiot Box, which was an early MTV sketch show. I think maybe even before the MTV incarnation of the Ben Stiller show. And I really thought of putting him in a coach position because of his filmmaking abilities. But there was just a couple other folks in there I thought, for the purposes of our sketch draft, would work better for me and my vision as coaches.
yeah. The other ones, almost all of the picks that I had that I did not go with were you kind of need to have Mitchell and Webb. Like if you put David Mitchell in, you got to have Robert Webb.
Yeah.
Armstrong and Miller, you got to have both of them. I think it just makes that work.
So yeah, I was going to start with the alternates. So besides the coaches and the starting five and the seven on the bench, who's some alternates? Who's kind of like an injury reserve list? Who's somebody we can sign on if you know, for whatever reason the player is not going to be available for the season. Um, let's start with a controversial one out the gate. I put Jay Johnston with conditions. So
Jay
Jay,
Johnson, asterisk.
yes. So he would have.
What conditions what
um,
conditions would he have, Brody?
so he was my Mr. Show pick, and we'll explain later how folks who've been on Mr. Show might have otherwise ended up on my draft. But Jay Johnston, Gene, and I were talking like I said the funniest person on the show not named Odenkirk. And like I was just looking at that cast and I was just like, he's just so good. But he stormed the Capitol on January 6th.
Poor judgment. Great comic chops. Terrible judgment.
Yes. So he would be my like Charlie Sheen in Major League coming back after some tragedy slash scandal. Um, but he's somebody I would be open to working with.
He's just doing his own research.
Yes. He's too good though. He's some of the best Mr. Show skits. Like
Yeah,
it's his
yeah,
favorite.
yeah. He was kind of the fulcrum of a lot of good sketches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I kind of, yeah. So,
You have
where's that?
five ults, so
We have five alts, or I thought we had five starters. I
no,
may screw this
you
up.
could do what we call the honorary mentions. So because of the
Oh,
Saturday
oh,
Night Live draft, so Saturday Night Live has 50 seasons. That's its
yeah,
own draft, and that's why we made it in
yes.
everybody. Oh, that was going to be my other question. Was who is the Saturday Night Live person that you wish you could have put on here that was
A-
ineligible?
Amy fucking Poehler.
Makes sense. Definitely, a good UCB draft,
Yes.
but just
Well,
not.
honestly, the only. I mean, I love Matt Besser. I love Walsh. I honestly, I can't, I can't. That no, they're good. They're not that good.
Yeah, yeah,
If I'm picking the non SNL uh sketch. So wait a minute, I may have screwed this up. I have five starters. I have seven benches and three riders.
yeah. No, no, you can pick
Oh,
just five.
oh,
Five. You can also have five honorary mentions.
we'll get the biggest, most sweeping honorable mention. Most everyone else on the state, except for the one person that I picked uh, from the state.
Okay, so that's
So,
your entire honorary mentions.
well, it's not my entire honorary mentions. I'm just saying this was a hard one to narrow down to like, oh,
Fair
this
enough.
other person,
Yeah,
yeah, because you just have so much talent there.
yeah.
Um, but again, and again, we talked about this offline, and there are some sketch institutions where you look at them and specifically what occurred to me when we discussed was the whitest kids you know.
Hmm.
I can think of like three or four hilarious sketches off the top of my head. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed that. But overall, like the cast is like they may have done other things, they may have written on other stuff that but it's like I couldn't single one person out.
gotcha.
Um, that sort of thing. The state is that, but like ramped up even more.
Yeah,
So much talent, so many people have gone on to do so many different things. Michael Ian Black, Joe Latrulio, Ken Marino, uh, a ton of people, a
yeah.
ton of people. Yeah, so that's that. I mean, it's a little squishy, but yeah, pretty much was very difficult to pick. I think I need to mention them as one monolithic mass.
Gotcha. Let me check off my alternates really quick. So Jay Johnston with conditions, as we talked about.
Right?
Stephen Colbert, drafting him from Dana Carvey show, actually. And we'll return to Exit 57, his other sketch show in a little bit. Just because he's such a strong presence and he'd be a good, like I said, pinch hitter slash designated whatever. I don't know. Keenan Ivory Wayans, I picked as my in living color pick. These are all kind of coach player situations because Keenan Ivory Wayans is a good directing force. And you think of also just a young Keenan Ivory Wayans on that show, very versatile. So for that reason, also as another alternate, Larry David from Fridays. Um, Went on to be a great writer, of course, on Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and a great performer on Curb Your Enthusiasm. So another player coach kind of situation. Coach player, player coach.
I
And
guess it matters how whether what amount of time they spend on the field.
yes, I'm just trying to remember what CM Punk's Twitter handle is because I know that he's like player coach on Twitter. And the last one, Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh was my Upright Citizens Brigade pick, and
Yeah,
I picked him because I was like looking for my last alternate, and I was like, well, let me look at Human Giant, and he was, I thought, the strongest like of my favorites on the Human Giant list, and it occurred to me, okay, I actually haven't drafted from UCB yet, even though Matt Besser's another person who
yeah,
I would have liked on this list as a creative force. Ian Roberts, another great performer, but like Matt Walsh has done so much for UCB as a performer, but also in just like mainstream comedy. He's proven his chops. He was on Veep, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and a bunch of things.
yeah.
And obviously he was reliable enough to be featured on Human Giant a whole bunch. So
Yeah,
my alts were, yeah, Matt Walsh, Larry David, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Stephen Colbert, and Jay Johnston with conditions.
with conditions. Yeah, so Human Giant's another one of those where I looked at it and less so than the Whitest Kids You Know, but like everyone's good and not good enough, I think, with other people, bench or starters.
Yeah.
Okay, so was those all your honorable mentions or?
Yeah, those are my alternates slash honorable mentions.
Okay, so my honorable well, so I have 10 then of bench slash honorable mentions. I
Yeah.
divvied them up into bench.
The
So
the bench it can actually play. The bench just
yeah,
like
okay, yeah. So I think the state, Harvey Korman, Carol Burnett show, Amy Poehler. I agonized over Larry David a little bit.
yeah.
But I think when we get into the player coaches slash writers producers side, um, and I do agree that Matt Walsh is a good pick. Besser too would have been a good pick for the player coach writer producer slot. I just think there are if I'm doing this, if I'm the producer, if I'm the Lorne Michaels here, and I'm slotting this show, this is who the head writer and writers room principals, and the cast. This is my picks. So I kind of did this with my point of view rather than a um who's the best necessarily.
Yeah, no,
And
of course. As we did for our Saturday Night Live draft. So
yeah, yeah. So,
make
but there are a lot of Larry. I did agonize over Larry David, but I think because I there's a finite number of slots, but I don't have him as an honorable mention. So, where do you want to go next?
let's do this. Let's start with we're each going to have a top three coaches. So you can think of this as a coach and two assistant coaches. You can think of this as a general manager to coach and assistant coach. We'll come back to those. Those are going to be like our top three, helping us shape the vision of this all-star sketch show. Then you're going to have your actual 12 player team, like we did
Yeah,
for the SNL draft. We're going to have
yeah,
five starters, and we're going to have a bench of seven players who, you just bring in at any point during the game if you need to. So really, it comes down to seven second string players, our bench. It's again not meant in a derogatory sense. These are folks we love. We just, you have to narrow it down to some slots. So I'll start with a bench pick. And I'm gonna go. I did put in kind of an order. Um, so I'll start with my 1 through 7. Right. I'll start with number 7. Kind of a surprise pick, I think. Vicki Lawrence from the Carol Burnett Show.
good one.
I picked Vicki Lawrence because of her work on that show and because of Mama's Family.
Yes,
Um, and I think that in also seeking like female representation on my bench, I just thought she was one of the stronger veterans. As
yeah,
a veteran, like I like that depth on the bench.
yeah. I've got nothing bad to say about that. That's a really good pick. Um, yeah, yeah. I did not pick her, but again, that now that you were talking about it, that would have been if there were two or three picks from each show, or
Yeah.
I probably would have gone Vicki Lawrence too.
Yeah. Who's a good member on the depth of the bench here for you?
Um, well, I just did mine kind of like 1 through 7. So John C. Riley.
John C. Riley.
John C.
Cool,
Riley.
cool.
I don't know
John
why
C.
I went so
Riley,
Riley.
drafted from which show?
Chairman Eric, awesome show, great job.
Yes.
For dude, again, I'm looking at. You mentioned Jim Carrey earlier, John C. Riley, uh, great actor, and really funny. and knows his comedy,
Yeah.
knows his way around the comedy. Uh, I think he does have depth. If you wanted to play it more straight or completely unhinged, like Dr. Steve Brule, so deep character work and good acting chops. But yeah, yeah,
Can't argue with that. This is my sixth pick out of seven for the bench. I think you're going to start this person, or at least they're going to be higher up. From the US version of the sketch show, Paul F. Tompkins. And I picked him for not only his work on Mr. Show and appearances he's made on Key and Peele, but as a member of the sketch show, he has shown that he can work internationally. And certainly we know him from other great work that we've talked about on the Shaky Town podcast
yep,
before.
yeah. No, I don't know if I want to. Do I want to tip my hand? I did not pick the PFT.
Oh, he does not end up in
PFT
the
does not appear in any of my lineup. And
thing.
not and again, not for. I came close. I came close. I came close, but
But you had to give the spot to Kelsey Grammer.
I did have to give it to Kelsey Grammer. I did. Oh, yeah. No, I did. I did not. Anyway, yeah, no, but I thought about it. I did think about it. Uh, uh, I'd forgotten he was in the sketch show. I knew he was in Mr. Show. Uh, and I kind of already written him off because, uh, again, not enough room.
Yeah.
Just not enough room.
Who did you pick? Who did you pick then for like a sixth?
Oh, my sixth, Carrie. Well, these are kind of not in order now that I'm looking at it, but Carrie Kenny Silver from the state.
I really considered her too. I ended up with a different state pick for reasons we'll get into later, but yeah, I mean, you can rattle off her resume like she's great.
Oh, Reno 911, the state. I mean, she's another person that in comedy that can play straight
Yeah.
and play absolute fucking lunacy
Yeah.
and be good from the gamut. And that's kind of if this you're going to see a thread through these picks where there's a lot of utility with a couple exceptions. But there's she's really one of those like I you could put her in any kind of sketch from the subtlest of straight man to just a literal screeching unhinged prostitute from like Reno 911, that kind of stuff. So yeah, Carrie Kenny Silver. um
I have sort of a Carrie Kenny Silver story.
oh sure.
Um, maybe it's a Carrie Kenny Silver story. So my wife was a nanny in Los Angeles, and one of her clients, who she nannied for the most, um, her kid went to a preschool, and the preschool loved my wife so much that they hired her to be one of the preschool teachers. That's what set her off on her educational path now, where she like runs stuff for things. So anyway, that preschool director, who was also our next door neighbor, we ended up moving next door to the new location, and it was just great because
Nice commute.
yes, exactly. She's like, "Hey, I have this friend. He's playing the show. I think there's gonna be food and blah blah blah." It was like in Malibu, and like we were gonna like drive to Malibu and do like and you could eat and drink, and my friend's gonna play on stage his songs, and they're good performer and stuff. The lady who comes out to introduce the singer, like is saying some funny things before and kind of like introducing just a funny person to warm up. Nope, didn't introduce herself by name. Nobody ever told me who she was, but I am 99.9% convinced that that was Carrie Kenny Silver up there. And
Nice.
that she what must have been a friend of the musician and was interested. And I'm just like, can somebody please tell me if that's Carrie Kenny Silver from the state? Because that looks and sounds identical to Carrie Kenny Silver from the state. And I never did get an answer, but I'm pretty sure I saw her at an intimate party.
Nice.
I don't know.
Nice.
Another close personal friend has ended up on my fifth spot. and that is Mo Collins from Mad TV. I call her my close personal friends because I get a happy birthday from her every once in a while, and we follow each other on various social media platforms, and I really like her. Not only for Mad TV and but Parks and Rec as well. I thought she was a very underrated performer on that show.
Oh yeah, she's
Yeah,
really she's another one that I looked at hard from Mad TV.
yeah. She gets the nepotism spot in my
Yeah,
list.
yeah, 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 yeah. I yeah, I agree. Uh my number five,
Yeah.
Bill Nye from Almost Live.
Wow. Bill Nye.
Yeah, Bill Nye from Almost Live. And this is my like fuck you pick.
Yeah.
This is my you know what? I could draft Bill Nye for this. I'm gonna draft Bill Nye. We'll use Bill Nye for stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of
Didn't go with
thing.
Joel McHale from the same cast.
Did not thought about it, but when I really thought about it, I'm like icon.
Yeah.
He's yeah. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna turn down, at least put him on the back bench. At least have Bill Nye the Science Guy in your pocket. Special teams kind of, pull the Bill Nye the Science Guy out.
Very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Yeah. So
Um, I if anybody gets a chance to read my story about the show Dead at 21 on drunkmonkeys.us, the showrunner of that, John Sherman, who I had a lovely conversation with, shared stories about breaking in in the business in Seattle with Bill Nye. So
yeah, that almost live almost live is one of those shows that I watched it when it was on Comedy Central, and it was so weird because it was so Seattle specific. It was it was funny, and the people on it were funny, and it was an amusing show, but it was like a weird window into another town
yeah,
that had this sketch show. It's kind of like, the only other thing I can compare it to is like if you're on vacation in another city and like they have a different horror host.
right.
It's like we had, Seymour in LA, and now you have Goulardi, or you have some, and it's kind of, or like, it's the Captain Andy cartoon show, and then in the other it's Engineer Bill, kind of thing. And
Have Walter Ladmo.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's the almost life has a weird spot in my heart.
Yeah,
It really isn't, it's AAA ball compared to a lot of places, but it's not necessarily the worst, and it surprisingly spun out some interesting talent.
nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of a pool of talent, my fifth pick, and you'll see we're going boy girl here, like you do in
It's
kickball. From Rowan Martin Laughlin. Can you guess?
I can guess. I'm not gonna guess though.
I want to hear the guess.
Lily Tomlin.
No, no, because it's a boy's turn. I did Mo
Oh, it's a
Collins.
boy's turn. Artie Johnson.
Henry Gibson.
Henry Gibson. Okay. That Ruth Buzzy, Joanne Worley, Henry Gibson, um, and Artie Johnson. I really thought about those. I
Yeah,
really, really thought about all of those.
yeah,
I'd forgotten Henry Gibson, and Henry Gibson wrote for the show too, I
I
think.
believe so. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
He
yeah,
did stuff on Letterman, or was that Father Theodore who did stuff on Letterman? Because then they ended up together on The Burbs. But
Father Theodore did stuff on Letterman for
yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, Henry Gibson's great. Oh God, Henry Gibson and the Blues Brothers, great. Not only great, but topical.
Yes, yes. And
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.
I hope this makes sense in my mind because Buck Henry wasn't eligible for this draft. Henry Gibson fills that role for me of like the older gentleman, super funny, but yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
kind of dry,
and
right?
a great dry straight man
Yep.
who you scratch the surface and he is insane,
Yeah, yeah,
insane. Buck Henry and Henry Gibson are
yeah.
kind of cut from the same cloth.
But Buck Henry, unfortunately, not even really a cast member anywhere, just was frequently on SNL. But these had to be cast members.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Josh Fadem might have ended up on this list somewhere, but he was more of a guest on stuff. So,
I literally was just watching one of those Adult Swim infomercials, and I'm like, yeah, it's Fade. Look, it's Fade.
yep. Who you got for four?
My four bencher is Steve Carell from Dana Carvey Show.
Excellent pick. Excellent pick.
Again, to keep kind of with the how I'm my strategy here. We're talking like fantasy sports league. Um, great as a straight man, can go fucking nuts.
Yeah.
You know,
More than more than proved himself on The Office.
oh yeah.
Regardless if that's your regular viewer of that or not. I literally only know it from like the first season and a bunch of TikTok clips.
Yeah, I I never really watched the US version of The Office because I'm one of those comedy snobs who uses no, but no, I mean it's I yeah, yeah, but just the too funny to fail watching
Yes.
Colbert and Carell do the waiters who are disgusted with food, like chef's kiss, man, chef's kiss.
That definitely informed my pick and why Colbert ended up. I mean, that and Exit 57, like I said, but
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
great pick. Number three pick. Boy, girl, we're on girl. And this one I telegraphed because I was excited she was eligible for the draft. She is technically a cast member from The Kroll Show, which was a sketch comedy show, short lived. Chelsea Peretti. She was somebody who, like, when I was coming up with this idea for the list, and like I was like, okay, let's do Chelsea Peretti. Wait a minute, what show is she actually on? And it's, to me, in my heart, she felt like a sketch comedian. And I was like, I know that
Yeah,
she's on something. And I did my research and I was like, oh yeah, Kroll Show.
yeah.
So
No,
uh
she's good. She's great. I wish I had thought of that.
and
You floated Kroll Show out there kind of late in the game,
yeah,
and I had already locked in so many people that I could not go with the Chelsea Peretti.
you walked in your list faster than I did, and I thought I had moved pretty speedily. So yeah, she's just good. She's good
Yeah, I
all
got,
around what she
oh,
does.
and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, she's like again, she can do character work and sketch work. I mean, she's just she's got the chops.
Now, you know that before Alyssa Thomas was traded to the Phoenix Mercury and Dewana Bonner was traded to the Indiana Fever, they played together on the Connecticut Sun while engaged to each other, still engaged to be married. We may have a Thomas Bonner situation on this list.
All right.
We'll get back to that in a moment.
Okay. All right.
Who's your number three?
My number three, Lily Tomlin laughing.
I realize now I overlooked Lily Tomlin. It's because to me she's a host of stuff.
Yeah, but that's oh yeah, no, and believe you me, I went and like no, but she joined the cast in like the third or fourth season, and was she was like I think she was like intermittent until then. But
Yeah,
yeah, Lily Tomlin. I mean, just another legend, another like she can do character work. She can play it straight. She can play it nutsy cuckoo, over the top, like all rounder,
yeah,
good all and just like a comic linchpin.
yeah. She ended up number one on my list of top 10 most punk rock West Wing characters. I have a list of who has the most punk rock cred on that show and
Nice.
characters anyway. And Lily Tomlin's character, who is the aide to President Bartlett.
Mhm.
So
Nice. Yeah,
she's
so that's my number three.
love it. All right. Get to the top of the bench here. You'll notice these are veterans for sure. I mean, um, most of my list is veterans. There's one surprise pick, I think, who I wouldn't consider a veteran. But as far as the bench goes, number two, my kids in the hall pick, Bruce McCullough. And, love Mark McKinney, not eligible for list Saturday Night Live. Dave Foley, great straight man. Um, I love all the other guys, but like Bruce McCullough's kind of always been my guy. I bought his album. I thought he played.
Except Kevin McDonald. We don't like Kevin McDonald. Nobody likes the bass player.
I
I like Kelvin McDonald.
like Kevin McDonald. Um, I think he's coming to Phoenix soon, actually, and Scott Thompson's coming to Phoenix soon. I got to see
Yeah,
them
he's doing
live
a
at
show. He's doing a show. He's doing some kind of
yeah.
show.
I got to see them live in downtown Phoenix years ago. That was great. What a tour that they did. Um, but yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Brain Candy, his Danzig like character is really good. Like he just, you know, he's got the music, he's got the comedy, he's got the acting. He's just done plenty of like straight up acting. So I think he'd be a good guy to again, all these players can contribute writing to the show. So
Yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah,
good
yeah.
contributor.
Yeah, I do not disagree with that pick. I think that is a good pick. Yeah. What was your number two or your three?
That
What
was
was
my
it?
number two. So you can tell me your number.
Graham Chapman, Monty Python.
I have no Monty Python on this list. I don't feel like I have enough. I'm not
Yeah.
enough about Monty Python.
So here's the thing. This is another thing we talked about. Um, Monty Python. So Palin and Terry Jones wrote together.
Right,
Graham Chapman, John Cleese wrote together. And Eric Idle wrote. I think did he write with Palin and Jones? Or did he write by himself? I don't know. But they're all and then Terry Gilliam did whatever the fuck he did
right.
on. Um, so again, we were kind of in this position where if you're gonna pick, you kind of have to pick in pairs, at least in pairs. That kept more Python. I almost well, we haven't talked about writers yet, but I almost put a John Cleese on my writers staff.
Yeah,
But Graham Chapman is another one that, first off, he's my favorite Python. Second, again, he can play the most traditional looking dude, and he can also have a giant false polystyrene nose and be a complete lunatic. Um, so that's where I am with it. I again though, I think that Michael Palin was a toss up between those two.
yeah, totally.
It was a toss up between those two for kind of similar reasons. A little bit different energy, I think, from the Graham Chapman. But yeah, that's my number two pick on the
Very
bench.
good, very good. Um, I'll go to my number one bench pick. Um, I think this will be a surprise, and it wasn't just because of their sketch comedy work. It's because of movie work they've done and a show that they starred in that I don't know if it would count as a sketch comedy show. But The Edge, the one season Fox sketch comedy show, definitely counts.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, I thought it was Jennifer Aniston.
Nope, no. I'm talking about Julie Brown.
Yeah, yeah, that was another one where, again, Julie Brown's comedic portfolio cannot be discounted, especially the stuff that she was doing in the 80s. And
Yeah.
then further on down the line, I guess she's still doing work, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a good pick. I got nothing to say bad about that pick. I'd forgotten she was on that show until I actually frankly I'd forgotten that show until you brought it up.
It was
And
a
then I
packed
saw
show.
it. Yeah. And then I saw it and I was like, yeah, I thought about her. I thought about her. But again, it came a little late in the game when I already had way better, more justifiable and I was more locked in.
So who's at the top of your bench? Probably the first player who will come in when you take out a starter.
Tim Conway, Carol Burnett.
Yep.
Again, the caveat being without Harvey Korman, but by himself, Tim Conway,
Oh yeah.
just even by himself, funniest character guy, straight man, can play the stupid guy pretty well, like all arounder, and just always. I when I watched Carol Burnett as a kid, anytime he was in a sketch, like it's funny already. It's
Right.
already so yeah. yeah. This is where we get kind of like I agonized about starter versus bench.
Yes.
So if this is your first go to, then yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
my number five starter and my number one starter are very similar in tone.
yeah. Yeah.
We'll tease that.
All right. So to review our benches, Vicki Lawrence, Paul F. Tompkins, Mo Collins, Henry Gibson, Chelsea Peretti, Bruce McCullough, and Julie Brown. They make up my second string, ready to jump in when I have to pull out a starter.
Yep. Mine's John C. Riley, Gary Kenny Silver, Bill Nye, Science Guy, Steve Carell, Lily Tomlin, Graham Chapman, Tim Conway.
All right. Because the starters are always going to be the most exciting, and everybody wants to know who the number one draft pick is, we're going to hold off a little bit and talk about our coaching staff. The vision for this is that you might have a head coach and assistant coaches, or like a general manager, head coach, and assistant coach. The important thing in the rules of our draft is, for as excellent as these folks may be as performers, they will not be on screen in our theoretical sketch show. They will be behind the scenes writing and producing. Um, Gene, why don't you start with your first coach pick?
I will go for the most controversial one, Michael O'Donoghue.
Oh, wow.
So this is he got in a technicality. He wrote a sketch for Exit 57 that
Oh,
was not
wow.
produced. That was not produced. Um,
But isn't he a Saturday Night Live cast member? I
is
guess.
he? Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's why it's technicality. I have an honorable mention that I can slot in if that's rejected. But I want to point out that he wrote a sketch that was rejected by I think the network was because it was too dark, and then they did a he died shortly after that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Michael O'Donoghue. If I can take him, Michael O'Donoghue.
Wow. All right.
If not, the honorable mention is Robert Smigel.
Okay.
From the Taco Bell Dana Carvey show, the Mug Root Beer Dana Carvey show, the Mountain Dew Dana Carvey show, the Diet Mug Root Beer Dana Carvey show. hang on, hang on. The Pepsi stuff Dana Carvey show and the Szechuan Dynasty Dana Carvey show.
So this is what we entitled the Odenkirk exception.
Yes.
Um, Bob Odenkirk will end up on at least one of these lists today. I can guarantee you that. And we decided that even though he was a prominent Saturday Night Live writer and appeared on screen in bit roles, because he was not a main cast member, he is eligible via his work on Mr. Show slash with Bob and David. So Michael O'Donoghue does, and Robert Smigel, despite their affiliation with Saturday Night Live as not main cast members appearing in multiple episodes, are accepted in the draft under the Odenkirk exception.
So there you go.
All right.
There you go.
So for my coaches, who I and I'll tell you that I will telegraph that there's a starter who almost got put in this coach role. And then I decided that I needed them on the front lines as a performer and they could contribute writing. But I picked Jordan Peele as my head coach because
Yeah, that was a good move, man.
he is and for as excellent as he is as a performer, and definitely would have qualified on bench if not starter. He's like one of the great filmmakers of our time, and he produced a great sketch comedy show.
Yeah.
Um, and so I thought it would be silly not to put Jordan Peele at the head of that coaching staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not disagree. Do
Yeah.
not disagree. That was one of those. That's one of those that would have been a good pick. I Key and Peele as players. I I I I like both of them. I think they're great.
Yeah.
But it was another one of those things where I think a lot of the stuff that made that show great was both of them together.
Yeah.
But I think if you were gonna strip one out, Jordan Peele's the one that would do the best in the behind the scenes role. So yeah, that's a good pick, man.
Very good. And Chelsea Peretti and Jordan Peele are, of course, my Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner of this team. Who are your other coach picks?
Okay, so again, this is one that has an asterisk next to it. Reese Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton, League of Gentlemen.
Okay,
Now they're a writing team, and they wrote Inside Number Nine, among other things, Psychoville, and I think Psychoville was just the two of them. It may have been Reese Shearsmith by himself, but one or the other. I think they're I think maybe Reese is more of the writery type, at least from the behind the scenes stuff that I saw. He gets less out of the performing side, so I think having them one or both of them as part of the writing producing staff um, would be what I'd want
excellent.
because they are insane. They you know, it's funny that your pick and my picks are both horror slash thriller adjacent in with their feet in both the comedy and the horror genre.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I considered Zach Krager in there just because he's proven himself with Barbarian, but and certainly proved himself with The Whitest Kid You Know. But um, um, yeah, I thought Jordan Peele. If I had to pick between the two, Jordan Peele's more proven. Um,
Yes,
uh,
yes,
I mean, Zach Krager certainly will be, I think, as we see more movies from him.
yeah,
Um, as far as other coach picks, I'll just tell you the two. David Wayne, he was my pick from the state. Uh,
yeah. Good pick.
more than proven himself with Stella, Wet Hot American Summer,
Yeah,
and other work he's done. And this one, I don't know if this will be a surprise for the coaching role, but Tim Heidecker. And it was, he's produced so many things and he's built this whole universe with his podcasts.
yeah.
He does with close
Doug Pound and
friend Greg Turkington, aka Neil Hamburger.
yep.
Um, uh, who I wish I could have drafted on this list, not just because of the nepotism rule, because we kind of know each other, but also because like he's brilliant and done brilliant
Yeah,
work. Not
yeah.
ever technically sketch work, technically. Um, but maybe if I have Heidecker as a coach, he can
Not
give.
televised sketch.
Yes, maybe he can give Greg a walk on role on the show. Um, yeah. So those are our coaches' picks.
Well, no, because
You have another coach pick?
yeah, I got three. Well, because I didn't know. I mean, like I said, I had Smeagol and O'Donohue
Yeah,
just in case one of those fell through because of the rules. And Shearsmith and Pemberton are kind of a team, but either one of them would work. Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave.
I'm sorry, he's disqualified.
Was he did okay. Did he have a credit? Did he have a credit in SNL? Was he the not ready for primetime players or a featured player?
Featured player counts. He's a Saturday Night
Was
Live chaperone.
did he have a feature player? Did
If
did,
they
did
were,
they did they have a card that's a Tim Robinson?
yes, if they were
Okay,
eligible for the Saturday
then
Night Live
then I've
draft.
still got my other ones.
Okay. Hey, we're going to talk about Tim Robinson during my starter picks.
Okay,
I'll give you that preview. But he's definitely somebody who would have gotten on both of our lists had he was already in the SNL draft, and so unfortunately he's ineligible for the sketch draft. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Gene.
that's fine.
Um,
Goodbye. That's a good day, sir. Okay.
I think the starters for both of us are going to be really intriguing. And I would not be surprised based on everything I've heard so far. If I think we're going to have at least one, if not two crossovers.
Maybe.
So, oh, but here's one more fun thing I want to do as far as omissions.
Hmm.
If you can pick one, two, or three shows that you did not draft at all from, I will tell you a couple of mine really quick. Chappelle Show. I just could not find anybody
Again, yeah. I,
that
I thought of Charlie Murphy for half a second, but
yeah, yeah. Um, and Tracy Ullman Show. I thought for sure that I was going to pull somebody from there. Did not end up pulling anybody from Tracy Ullman.
um what's his face?
Sam
Um
McMurray, I did think of.
Sam McMurray. Sam McMurray, exactly. I
Yeah,
did think of that, but yeah, exactly. And Tracy Ullman was like, I mean, she's great. I just think that she does great character work, but as I have said before with my bench picks, I'm looking for, especially if it's a narrow scope, I'm looking for someone that can do anything.
Yeah.
And my notes for Ben Stiller's show sure as hell ain't picking Andy Dick.
Who had his own sketch comedy show, The Andy
Right,
Dick.
right, right. Yeah, nothing for Chappelle's show. Nothing from Human Giant, but not for lack of talent, but just kind of there's nothing from Idiot Box because I really didn't see that show.
Yeah.
Um, uh, uh, Nothing from Kroll show, but that doesn't mean that Chelsea Peretti isn't brilliant.
Yeah.
I didn't pick anyone from Mr. Show.
Okay, that is shocking to me. Let's get into your starters.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to talk about why not anybody for Mr. Show, maybe the starters will kind of clear that
I
up.
think probably the starters will clear it up, but just the Edge, the sketch show, Tracy Ullman. I did not pick anyone from UCP, Bright Citizens Brigade show, and I didn't pick anyone from Whitest Kids You Know.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, but yes, let's talk about it.
Yes. So if you have five starters, in my list, I did a 1 through 5, and so I'm going to count from 5 to 1. If your list is set up similarly, before
Close
you
enough.
your
Close
number
enough.
one all-star top draft pick, let's hear your number.
Yeah.
Let's
Huh?
hear your number five.
My number five, Andy Daly, Mad TV.
Oh, that is a good pick that I overlooked. One of the first people I met when I moved to Los Angeles out front
Great,
side CB
great,
team.
great fellow,
Yes.
a personable fellow, and a really good comedian. Really
Yes.
good comedian. And again, if you can see a through line through my show, it's going to be weird, it's going to be dark, and it's going to have people that can play off each other in any like Andy Daly can play, I mean he's literally played like principals and businessmen types, and he's also played insane people. So yeah, Andy Daly, Mad TV. That's my number five.
Very good. Um, my number 5 starter is a heavy hitter in all senses of the word. SCTV's John Candy.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I'd almost say enough said, but for the audience who may be too young to know, besides being a great actor in Uncle Buck and tons of movies, tons of appearances, yeah, he got to start with Second City. He got to start on the SCTV show.
Yeah.
Um, um, so did Catherine O'Hara, by the way, who I mean, we know that. And I rendered her ineligible for this list because she technically was a Saturday Night Live cast member, although she ended up walking out.
Yeah. Yeah, Catherine O'Hara was another one. I mean, well, that's the thing is SCTV is another one of those shows where, I mean, Martin Short is out. Um, uh, uh, but you got Eugene Levy, you've got Dave Thomas, you've got Joe Flaherty. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me
Rick
just tell you,
Moranis.
Rick Moranis. I thought about Rick Moranis. I really
Yeah.
thought hard about Rick Moranis, at least for the bench. John Candy's my number four.
Nice.
So
There's our
yeah,
crossover.
yeah. There's at least one crossover. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, John Candy's another one of those guys where he can do all of the things from relatively normal kind of thing to completely unhinged. Yeah, it's like I think about just thinking about the stuff that I've seen him in, like National Lampoon's Vacation. He's in that for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and he's still one of the funniest things in one of the funniest movies ever written. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, 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 yeah. John Candy, Force of Nature, and just capable.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. So that's my
Um,
number four.
cool. We'll go into my number 4 pick. I think this might be a surprise. Maybe not. You tell me. I did go from the whitest kid you know, Trevor Moore, the late Trevor Moore, whose life was cut short and whose potential was cut short. I think he had shown a lot of excellent work. I sadly became a Trevor Moore fan after he had already passed away because I was just ignorant of the show. And I finally, like, besides some like sketches that were on YouTube that had kind of been passed around and stuff, I finally sat down and watched the whole thing front to back and the Civil War movie that they did, and like they're all great. Like I like each one of those guys a lot.
Yeah,
I think Trevor Moore was really the face of that show. I really think that he
yeah,
was more prominently featured. I think his kind of dark sense of humor um was very prominent on the show. I think that he could say the most offensive things on that show
Yeah.
and still be funny and not get canceled somehow, even though he
Yeah.
was super offensive.
Yeah.
And he'd started to do his own work beyond Whitest Kids You Know. Like he was kind of like hosting his own like podcasts, YouTube shows, and things like that. And if these players are all in their prime, and you have a prime Trevor Moore there, or even a the potential that Trevor Moore would have reached, how could you not start that guy? So that's why he's on my list.
Oh no, I don't disagree. And that's the thing is Whitest Kids You Know, that's sort of why they didn't make anything in my list
Yeah, yeah,
is because but yeah, I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
yeah. This would bring us to your number three.
Dave Foley, Kids in the Hall.
Great straight man, great sketch comic. I mean, he also did funny roles on Kids in the Hall. Like he
Yeah.
did wacky.
His two, two of his character. Well, so let's talk about your Bruce McCulloch pick because Bruce McCulloch is I vacillated between the two. Um, I picked McCullough for two. I picked Foley over McCullough for two reasons. Um, one, I think he's hotter in drag. Um,
This is true. That's one of those things that nobody can disagree.
um, uh, but Scott Thompson's sexier in drag.
Sultry.
Anyway, sultry, exactly. So no, but Foley did two of my favorite characters of all time of any show ever. His serial killer, axe murderer character, and the incompetent doctor.
Okay.
Um, and again, same sort of of range of completely, straight laced to an insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave Foley, number three.
Woefully underused in Brain Candy, but by his own choice. Like he was not on the best
Yeah.
terms with the guys when they
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. You go
Yeah.
check it
We'll
out.
get into kids and all politics. We won't.
They're all buddies now. That's what's important. I think Foley's in.
Except for Kevin McDonald. Nobody likes Kevin.
Dave's in poor health right now, and or I was, and had to cancel some dates with the guys, and wish him the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My number three pick, definitely um, not straight man, straight woman, straight. This person's always wacky. Exit 57's Amy Sedaris. I've read her books. I've
Okay.
seen
Let
her.
me, let me let me say she's my number two.
Wow, nice. Okay, let's talk about Amy Sedaris.
Yeah. Let's talk about
Um,
it.
I just
No, go. You do your thing. You do your thing, and I'll do my thing.
I did not know that we'd have crossover on her, but yeah, Exit 57, obviously great sketches with a great team, but Strangers with Candy and just everything she has done.
At Home with Amy Sedaris. Still, if we could count that as a sketch show, then
Yeah.
I would have Cola Skull on here somewhere. But that's neither here nor there. Um, yeah, yeah. Just yeah. Everything she touches is comedy gold, and it's always just. And again, like you said, this is one of the few picks where I don't expect her necessarily. Although watching it at home with Amy Sedaris, that character the Amy Sedaris character that she's playing on that show is probably the most even keeled version of an Amy Sedaris
Yeah,
character,
yeah,
and it's still pretty wacky.
yeah,
But it's wacky in a way that I think she really is like that. She's not particularly. She's a little askew,
yeah.
just in general. But when she's in a character that's an insane character, like, it's but it's gold all the way down, you
Yes,
know. So yeah, that's my number two. Your number.
absolutely. Great. I will pick my number two now. So I could have plucked this person from a few different sketch shows, and they initially were my number one coach pick. And I was like, do I want to sacrifice this person's performing chops for as good as they are at writing and
Right,
producing
right.
and but it's like, well, like this is going to be like the number two draft pick. This is going to be like a star of the show for sure. And so since I'd already plucked Jay Johnston as a far, far back alternate, I had to grab this person from the Ben Stiller show, and it is Bob Odenkirk. And I mean, this person is somebody who, like, if I could model my career after, um, producing, writing, being on camera, comedy, drama, action, even. I mean, he really has done it all. And it's been great to follow his career as a comedy nerd in the 90s that I was, um, to like the super cool guy I am now. No, what I'm saying is I knew Odenkirk as a like, oh,
Yeah.
comedy of who Odenkirk now. Now everybody knows who Bob Odenkirk is because they know Better Call Saul and Nobody.
Uh,
And if you're a Netflix person watching Tim Robinson's, I think you should leave. You've seen him pop up there. If you were somebody who grew
Triples are
up
best.
on Adult Swim and Tim and Eric, triples are best. He is on like three of these shows, right? At least. I've
Triples are
lost
best.
count of how many shows. So um, that's all I can say about my number two pick. Like he could have been easily the number one draft pick,
Yeah.
uh, but he wasn't, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. When I'm at number one.
You are at number one. And no Odenkirk?
No, but you know what? Again, that was kind of um I don't disagree with any of the stuff that you said.
Yeah.
I think that I probably would have put him in as a writer if I hadn't filled all the slots.
Yeah.
Um, I I think for how things started to shape up for me, I already had everything kind of packed.
Yeah.
I probably, you know what? I probably would have. I could dump the Bill Nye for an Odenkirk on the bench, but I'm not going to do that because fuck you, Bill Nye.
I'd also gonna say I got a sense that he probably enjoys the act of performing more than he enjoys he enjoyed running Mr. Show because I've seen the behind the scenes of him being just like fed up all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that might also have been with the the HBO
Yes.
running
But
it.
I was
So
like, what would it be like if Jordan Peele had designed something for Odenkirk to star in? What if or David Wayne was making something? And I know Tim Heidecker's worked with Odenkirk. So like um I just knew that there were to sound cheesy about it, there would be magic to be made there. So
oh yeah, 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 1,000%,
yeah.
1,000%.
But yet not my
Um,
number one pick. Let's talk about Gene George's number one pick.
Jim Carrey in Living Color.
That is a very
So
for all the reasons I didn't pick him, you might have picked him for those same reasons.
yeah, and I think in sort of he's sort of the mega Bob Odenkirk from when Jim Carrey's ruled the earth. I mean, he's gone through a very similar arc, starting out a little more manic and crazy character wise, and but he's got the acting chops, and he can tone it down when he wants to. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's a superstar, and he started out doing terrible sitcoms and decent sketch comedy. But yeah, character wise, if you were gonna have a marquee name for the show, and I think like with things like Cable Guy, he got into dark places. He's done some thrillery kind of psychological suspense kind of stuff. And I think given how my writing staff, producing staff is stacked, I think you kind of need people with acting chops and people who can go to the really weird places. And I
Yeah.
kind of feel like like my starters, including Jim Carrey, are capable of that. My bench is a little less, I think, capable of it. But I think the main vein is strong.
Very cool. Um, just to make this a little fun, is there a name you haven't heard yet from me that you want to guess is my number one pick?
Well, I can't. We got so much stuff on the table.
right?
I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to make a. Let me think real quick.
I will say that I would have guessed Odenkirk had you not said Carrie because I was like, oh, of course we're gonna both say Odenkirk. Um,
I think it also has to do with how I went through the list of shows.
totally. I would also
Uh,
say David Cross. It's interesting that neither of us talked about him, even though he clearly has done this great work. But I think he's more thought of as a stand-up now, honestly.
yeah, that's part of that. I think that I think David Cross has a flavor,
Yeah,
and I think a lot of the folks that I picked don't have. They're capable of flavor,
yeah,
but they don't have a flavor.
yeah,
I think Cross is. I mean, and this is not damning him with faint praise, but I think that he's less of a utility player to me in my head. Um,
totally.
yeah, let me look at the shows. I
Yeah.
mean,
And you didn't have any Mad TV picks, right?
no, I did Andy Daly.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I think of Andy Daly. Yeah, of everything, but I always forget that he was on Mad TV.
Right.
I think of him as
Um,
like from Crossballs and stuff like that.
yeah, no, he's done so much stuff.
Uh,
Um, I don't know. No, I can't hazard a guess.
so this was my first pick, like the first name I wrote down.
First name you wrote
Number,
down.
number one draft pick, the only non-veteran. Um, I feel like Chelsea Peretti has acted long enough that I wouldn't
Right.
consider her a rookie by any means. Trevor Moore, I think, had been established by the time he had passed away. This person's only been on the scene for a few years, and they are from Netflix's I Think You Should Leave, Patty Harrison. My number one draft pick. I think she's a star. I think she is hilarious. I think she has a wicked
I never would have thought of that.
sense of humor that got her kicked off Twitter.
Well, yeah.
I think she's an interesting personality. She has an interesting backstory, as this Asian American trans woman who has ended up just like this wild, like I can't tell you how many times around this house we say things about like from that wine sketch from the Charlie Brown. I was the hate bald boys, um, just on the strength of her appearances on that show, which are few and far between, but enough that she's a member of
She
that.
stands out. She stands out.
Yeah, and I just think that if you have her in your starting lineup with these veterans like Odenkirk and Sedaris and Candy and Trevor Moore and with Peel at the head of the the coaching staff, this deep bench, and if Jay Johnson could get his shit together, then I
It's,
you
look,
can't
there are good people on both sides.
both sides of the bench.
Yes.
So my starters were Patty Harrison, Bob Odenkirk, Amy Sedaris, Trevor Moore, and John Candy. One, two,
Yeah.
three.
Jim Carrey, Amy Sedaris, Dave Foley, John Candy, Andy Daly. I, you know, here I didn't. You know what I didn't do? I didn't look at I Think You Should Leave.
Yeah. Well, it's tough because it's such a when I say personality driven show, I mean like a Key and Peele, where it's those two guys.
Yeah,
I think you should leave where it is Tim Robinson.
yeah,
Um, Tracy Ullman shows obviously Tracy Ullman, but like Kroll show is strongly Nick Kroll.
yeah,
But there's Dana Carvey show. But I mean, Dana Carvey show is one of those shows that really did emphasize this ensemble cast. Um, Chappelle show's another one where we literally couldn't pick because there wasn't people that were like regularly cast enough to pick one. It was just Dave's show, which is fine. But and Ben Stiller and Carol Burnett both also, even with the personality at the head of it, great ensemble casts.
yeah.
So, um,
Yeah, no, if I'd have actually dug through the IMDb or Wikipedia
yeah.
of I Think You Should Leave, she would have been up on my radar more. That is not a bad pick, man. That's a really good pick. Because what's the Christmas present sketch?
Oh,
Like
yes.
it's like yeah. That's not a bad pick. That is I'm cool with that.
You want to hear something sad?
What's that?
My oldest has figured out the truth about Santa Claus.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was a bummer
Santa
day.
Claus broke into the Capitol on January 6th.
Yes.
That's the truth, right?
Well, when the news came out about the part, you couldn't, hide that.
That's right. Santa Claus right on top of the list.
He's
I'm
moving.
off the naughty list. Ho ho ho! Vaccines give everyone autism. Ho ho ho! Do your own research.
He's moving bedrooms in the house, and the room he's moving into is kind of like a office slash storage slash catch-all.
Uh,
And something emerged from the junk pile while I was gone that was like, wait a minute, this is a box with a receipt, and I got this from Santa. Okay, I've had some other doubts. I'm piecing this together, and he interrogated his mother until she broke and was like, okay,
he was all
here's the
Christoph Waltz in Inglorious Bastards.
um the way we phrased it was, well, the first thing I said when he finally told me, and I was like, why wasn't I around for this conversation? And his mother was just like, I'm sorry, but he insisted, and what was I gonna do? I'm like, okay. I'm like,
Set the house on fire and run. It's the only answer.
so she explained like the tradition and Saint Nicholas and stuff, and he's telling me this. I'm like, yes, Santa Claus is real, he's just dead. And he's like, what?
Keep it under your hat. That's what you need to do. You're like, dude, do not let people know this.
When I framed it in that, it came from this magical tradition, or it came from this, folk tradition, and it's this magic that we make now, that, he was able to kind of get behind it, and be consoled by that and stuff. But we do these trips to, to Williams, which is outside of Flagstaff, and they have the North Pole experience, and you take a
Yeah.
bus, and the bus goes through a portal, and then you're at the North Pole. So I asked him about that. He's like, no, I knew that was still Arizona. I'm like, okay. So he'd figured all this out. He just finally, like, really just, yeah, so it was kind of a bummer, but he's excited now he can help uh make the magic, like with moving the elves around and stuff, with for his
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
stuff for
Those are no, that's what you need to be like, no, those are real, dude. Elves are real. They'll fuck your shit up.
yeah.
Santa, who do you think killed Santa? It's fucking elves.
Yeah.
Do not make eye contact with the elves.
But the whole thing unravels. Leprechaun, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, like the whole thing just unravels. And it's just like, what? But he was of the age where I was like, I would have been surprised had he not already figured it out. And
I
he had to admit it to himself. Now they had proof.
right, right, right. He was living a lie. I I think the tooth fairy the tooth fairy is in an odd position in our house because there's that episode of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt where Titus improvises a song for his audition that has the line, and to make it less weird, we say they're stolen by a demon that your parents know about teeth. So I don't know if haven't asked Matilda about it, but I don't know if Fletcher's grokked the meaning of that, the deeper meaning of that. But we sing that song all the time because it's a catchy song.
Yeah.
Trident gum, it's the chewiest gum. Give it to your friends and chew it with your teeth. Your teeth are bones that live outside. They hang from your lips like bats. Oh, outside bones, outside bones. Never forget your teeth are outside bones. They're bones that you wash. And when you're a kid, they fall out of your mouth. And when you're a kid, they're saying they're stolen by a demon that your parents know. Trident. Yeah. So there you go.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I have Amazon packages wrapped from Santa have come. They
Yeah.
have they have gift receipts. It has from Santa on them. So I don't know. I haven't been the most secretive about whether or not Santa exists, but you know, look, I can't be in charge of that. Anyway, no, that's
Um,
hilarious though. My daughter's calling. Yes, ma'am. What's up? Do I have the book in Diary of Anne Frank? I do not. Oh, probably. Oh, it's not going to be banned from Amazon. It's not going to be banned from Barnes and Noble. Yeah, yeah, and I can't imagine it's particularly costly. I don't. But again, again, book bans tend to be in libraries and schools. Com You can absolutely get them. I'm just saying commercially, you are not, there's no way even an asshole like Donald Trump can ban the commercial sale of books like Anne Frank's Diary and Lord of the Flies. I get it. Okay. Same thing applies to 1984. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you want to have those books, those are good books to own, regardless of whether I have copies of them. You might want to have copies of them and carry them around with you or wherever you go. I don't have Girl Interrupted. Actually, ask mom. She might have that. No. Again, if you're going to be asking me about books that are going to possibly be banned, like I probably don't have. Yeah, you put them on your wish list and we'll get them for you. Or Santa Claus will. Bye bye. I
Thanks
don't
for
know.
thanks for
Yeah.
doing the draft.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
It's fun. Came
Gotta
together
call
quickly.
gotta call my daughter back and reassure her that no th- Thanos snap Trump can't Thanos snap all books out of existence.
I mean, if we had to worry about that, we'd have to worry about this show getting cut off. Shaky Town was created by Brodie Hubbard and Gene George. You can find us on various social media platforms under those names. You can also find the show on YouTube at Shaky Town and on Blue Sky at Shaky Town. We also still have accounts on Facebook, X, and Instagram at Shaky Town Radio, or just go to shakytownradio.com.